I, 25F, have been working at an architecture firm for the past 2 years, and I need to talk about something that's been eating me alive: family favoritism. Not just minor preferences, but blatant, undeniable favoritism that's shaped my entire life. Let me explain how my parents treat my younger sister Sophia, 18F, like she's the center of the universe, while I might as well be invisible. You know those memes about the golden child versus the scapegoat? That's my life, documented in painful detail. Growing up, every birthday became a testament to this reality. My 16th birthday? I got a used laptop that could barely run basic software. Sophia's sweet 16? They rented an entire venue, hired a live band, and even got a professional photographer. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. I've always been drawn to architecture. Even as a kid, I'd spend hours with my building blocks, creating intricate structures while my parents fawned over Sophia's random dance moves in the living room. "Look how naturally talented she is," they'd gush, while my carefully constructed buildings were swept aside without a glance. This pattern continued throughout our lives. When I was in college, I won first place in a major architectural design competition. It was a watershed moment for my career, the kind of achievement that opens doors in my field. I told my parents weeks ahead about the awards ceremony, hoping that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. The morning of the ceremony, my mom casually mentioned they couldn't make it. "We have errands to run," she said, not even looking up from her phone where she was probably liking Sophia's latest Instagram posts. I ended up asking my friend's mom to take photos, fighting back tears as I accepted my award in front of an audience full of proud parents. 3 months later, Sophia entered a high school dance competition. She got second place, not even first, and my parents went absolutely ballistic with pride. They bought her flowers, took her out to a fancy dinner, and posted about it on every social media platform they could find. Our talented daughter, following her dreams. I sat there at that dinner, pushing food around my plate, wondering what made her dreams so much more valuable than mine. The examples are endless. When my ancient phone finally died, it was so old the screen would randomly go black. I had to work extra shifts at my part-time job to save up for a new one. When Sophia mentioned wanting the latest iPhone, they got it for her that weekend. "She needs it for her social media presence," my mom explained, as if that justified everything. But the real difference showed in how they handled our mistakes. One time, I forgot to take out the trash, a simple oversight after pulling an all-nighter for a project. My dad gave me a 45-minute lecture about responsibility and how I needed to grow up and start contributing to the household. But when Sophia backed into our mailbox before she even had her license, they laughed it off. "Oh, everyone makes mistakes when they're learning." The mailbox cost $300 to replace, by the way. My grandfather was different. He was my beacon of hope in this ocean of favoritism. While my parents were obsessing over Sophia's latest social media follower count, Grandpa would sit with me in his study, looking over my architectural sketches. He didn't know much about modern design principles, but he understood passion. One day, he'd say, his eyes twinkling, "I'll see your buildings on postcards. And I'll buy every single one of them." I spent more and more time at my grandparents' house as I got older. It was the only place where I could breathe freely, where my achievements weren't immediately overshadowed by whatever Sophia had done that day. Grandma would bake cookies while Grandpa helped me with my college applications. They were the first ones to really see me. When I was 22 and working my first job at the architecture firm, Grandpa called me over for a serious talk. He sat me down in his study, the same room where he'd encouraged my dreams for years, and told me he was starting a college fund for my graduate studies. He was painfully honest. "I know your parents won't prioritize this, sweetie. They have their favorites, and it's not fair. But I want you to have your shot." The fund was substantial, $55,000. It was enough to give me a real chance at pursuing my master's degree without drowning in debt. When my parents found out, they barely reacted. But Sophia? She threw an epic tantrum. "Why doesn't Grandpa love me as much?" she wailed. My parents spent hours consoling her, telling her she was just as special, just as loved. Meanwhile, I stood in the corner, feeling like I couldn't have this one thing, this single thing, without it becoming about her. Working at the architecture firm has been my escape. I've thrown myself into my projects, staying late at the office, taking on extra assignments. My colleagues appreciate my dedication, my attention to detail. Last month, I even got to present one of my designs to a major client. The firm partners were impressed. But when I tried to share this news with my parents, "That's nice, honey. But did you hear about Sophia's TikTok going viral?" Then everything changed. My grandparents passed away within months of each other, first grandpa, then grandma, as if they couldn't bear to be apart. Losing them shattered me. They were my support system, my cheerleaders, the only ones who treated me like I mattered. In the midst of my grief, I had to handle the responsibilities they left behind. They were organized people, everything laid out clearly in their will. They left me their modest house, full of memories and love. Then there was the college fund, Grandpa's pride and joy. I hadn't touched it yet, thanks to my savings from work. But as graduate school applications loomed closer, I decided to check the account. Late one night, after a particularly long day at the office, I logged in to review the balance. The numbers on the screen made my heart stop. Instead of $55,000, there was just $5,000 left. I blinked, refreshed the page, logged out and back in. The number didn't change. The next morning, I went to the bank in person, trying to keep my composure as I asked about the transaction history. That's when the truth unraveled. My parents, listed as secondary beneficiaries, had been systematically draining the account over the past year. I called my mom that evening, my hands shaking as I held the phone. "Hey, I was checking Grandpa's college fund, and most of the money is gone. Do you know what happened?" There was a long pause before she answered, her tone immediately defensive. "What do you mean it's gone? Are you sure you're looking at the right account?" When I told her I'd been to the bank and knew they had withdrawn the money, she dropped the act. "We used it for Sophia's sweet 16, she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "You spent $50,000 on a birthday party?" "It wasn't just the party," she said, as if that made it better. "There were a lot of expenses, the venue, the catering, the decorations. Plus, we got her a car." Then came the kicker, they'd also used the money to take Sophia on a 2-week family vacation to Europe. A family vacation I wasn't even told about, let alone invited to. When I pointed out that the money was meant for my education, my mom sighed like I was being unreasonable. "You didn't need that money anymore. You have a job, remember? Sweet 16 only happens once. We wanted to make it special for her." I hung up the phone, my whole body numb. That night, I sat in the living room of the house my grandparents had left me, surrounded by their photos and memories. It felt like a betrayal of everything they'd worked for, everything they'd believed in. After days of internal debate, I made a decision. I hired a lawyer. This isn't about money anymore, it's about respect, about standing up for myself, about honoring my grandparents' wishes. When my parents got served with the paperwork, all hell broke loose. My mom called within hours, screaming about how I was tearing the family apart. "Do you know how this makes us look?" she demanded. My response was simple: "You should have thought about that before stealing $50,000. "It wasn't stealing," she shrieked. "It was for the family." I told her to talk to my lawyer and hung up. The fallout was immediate. My extended family found out, because of course my mom couldn't keep quiet about it, and suddenly I was public enemy number 1. My aunt called to lecture me about family loyalty. My uncle said I needed to think about what you're doing to your mother. But I'm done thinking about everyone else. For once in my life, I'm thinking about me. My lawyer says this won't be an easy process, but I'm ready. My grandparents believed in me, believed in my dreams. I won't let their last gift to me be squandered on a sweet 16 party and a car that Sophia probably already dented. I'll keep you updated as things progress. If anyone has dealt with toxic family dynamics like this, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, but then I remember my grandfather's face when he told me about the college fund, how proud he was to be able to help me chase my dreams. I won't let them take that away. Update 1. Hey Reddit, first off, thank you for all the support on my last post. Some of you really helped me see that standing up for myself wasn't just right, it was necessary. Here's what's happened in the 2 months since I initiated legal action. The legal process has been exhausting. My parents initially tried to drag things out, ignoring our letters and missing deadlines. Their first response through their lawyer was almost laughable. They claimed the money was a family resource, and that Grandpa had verbally amended his intentions before passing. When we asked for any proof of this supposed amendment, they suddenly couldn't remember exactly when or where this conversation happened. During our first mediation session, my parents tried a new approach. Dad claimed they had invested the money for my future, arguing that Sophia's social media presence would eventually benefit the whole family. He actually said with a straight face, "She's going to be an influencer, and then she can help pay for your education." The mediator's expression was priceless. The real shock came when we discovered additional withdrawals they hadn't mentioned. Beyond the Sweet 16 party, car, and European vacation, they had spent thousands on a private dance coach for Sophia's career development. They'd invested in an expensive social media management course, multiple professional photo shoots for her Instagram, and a complete gaming setup for her attempted streaming career. My lawyer was thrilled about these discoveries. Apparently, documenting such frivolous expenses makes our case even stronger. When confronted with these expenditures, my mom actually tried to justify them as investments in Sophia's future. She brought spreadsheets to our next meeting, attempting to show how an influencer career could generate substantial family income. The judge wasn't impressed, especially when my lawyer pointed out that Sophia's social media following was mostly bought through paid promotions, using more of my college fund money. The family dynamic has shifted dramatically. Most relatives initially sided with my parents, but as details emerged, some started changing their tune. My cousin Julia, 32F, called me privately to say she'd witnessed similar favoritism at family gatherings for years but never had the courage to speak up. She's now one of my strongest supporters, offering to testify about specific incidents she's witnessed over the years. My Aunt Margaret, who initially lectured me about family loyalty, went unusually quiet after seeing the bank statements during a family gathering. Mom had brought them to approve of their side of the story, but it backfired spectacularly. The statements showed not just the major expenses, but dozens of smaller withdrawals for things like social media consulting and brand development workshops. Last week, Margaret sent me a short text, "Your grandpa would be proud of you standing up for yourself." Coming from her, that meant everything. Sophia's behavior has undergone the most dramatic change. When she realized her car might be seized as part of the settlement, she launched a full-scale social media campaign against me. Her tearful stories about her toxic sister and how I was destroying the family out of jealousy quickly backfired. Her followers started questioning her perspective, especially after she complained about potentially losing her European summer travel plans, while many of them were working part-time jobs to afford textbooks. Her latest meltdown came when she realized she might have to get a job. She posted a 20-minute rant about how unfair it was that she might have to work in retail or food service, like a regular person. The comments section turned against her quickly, with many pointing out how out of touch she sounded. She's been losing followers daily, and her attempts to paint herself as the victim have only made things worse. The real wake-up call for her came last week when her college acceptance letter arrived. Instead of the usual celebration, there was panic in the house. My parents had promised to fund her entire education, but now they're facing serious financial constraints. Their savings are depleted from the legal fees and potential settlement. Sophia's dream school is suddenly looking less certain, and she's finally facing the consequences of their collective actions. Meanwhile, my career has become my sanctuary. The partners at my firm have been incredibly supportive, especially after I explained why I might need some flexibility for court dates. One of them pulled me aside and shared her own story of family financial abuse. She's become something of a mentor, helping me navigate both professional and personal challenges. Last month, she even assigned me to lead a significant project, showing her confidence in my abilities despite my ongoing personal struggles. The most vindicating moment came during a heated phone call with my parents last week. Mom started her usual guilt trip about family loyalty, and I finally found my voice. When she began talking about how families should support each other, I calmly asked her where this concern for family was when they spent my education fund on Instagram photo shoots and social media courses. The line went quiet, and she hung up. Dad called back an hour later with a completely different tone. For the first time, he sounded defeated. Their lawyer contacted mine yesterday suggesting we might be able to reach a settlement. The initial comments from the judge about their breach of fiduciary duty seemed to have finally hit home, especially when he mentioned potential punitive damages. My parents are starting to realize this won't just disappear with a few tearful phone calls or guilt trips. This whole experience has been transformative. Standing up to them was terrifying at first, but each small victory makes me stronger. I'm no longer the quiet daughter who accepts whatever scraps of attention they deign to give me. I'm a professional woman fighting for what's rightfully mine, and I'm winning not just in court, but in life. Watching Sophia grapple with real-world consequences has been eye-opening. She's had to cancel her summer travel plans, and there's serious talk about her having to attend community college instead of her dream university. She's stopped posting about me on social media after her followers started questioning her perspective. Some of her friends have even reached out to me privately, saying my stand against family financial abuse made them examine their own family dynamics. One called me inspiring. Imagine that, the scapegoat daughter becoming an inspiration. The most recent development came when my parents tried one last manipulation tactic. They showed up at my office unannounced, thinking they could pressure me in person. What they didn't expect was my entire team rallying around me. My mentor stepped in, politely but firmly escorting them out while reminding them that all communication should go through our lawyers. Seeing their power over me dissolve in real time was incredible. I'll update again when we reach a settlement or if anything major changes. Thank you all for your support and advice. Special thanks to those who shared their own stories of standing up to toxic family members. You helped me find my voice when I needed it most. As my grandfather always said, sometimes the hardest battles are the ones most worth fighting. Update 2, after 6 intense months of legal battles, I can finally share how everything concluded. For those asking about the outcome of the lawsuit, buckle up because karma finally caught up with my family. The settlement negotiations were brutal. My parents initially tried claiming poverty, but their social media activity betrayed them. While pleading financial hardship, my mother was still posting about weekend spa trips and designer purchases. Their lawyer visibly cringed when my team presented these posts during mediation. The turning point came when our forensic accountant discovered something shocking. Beyond the expenses we already knew about, my parents had been funneling money into a social media investment account for Sophia. They'd hired multiple influencer coaches, and even put a deposit on a content creation house, all with my college fund. The judge's reaction was memorable. This isn't investing in a child's future, this is gambling with someone else's inheritance. The final settlement was more extensive than we'd initially sought. My parents had to liquidate several assets, including their vacation timeshare and some investment properties we didn't even know existed. Sophia's car, the one they bought with my money, had to be sold. The irony? She'd barely driven it, preferring to be chauffeured around by our parents. Luxury shopping sprees and European vacations. Now she's working at a local coffee shop, her first real job at 18. The transformation has been remarkable. Initially, she'd come home crying about having to wear a uniform and deal with difficult customers. But something unexpected happened, she's actually starting to mature. Last week, she made her first student loan payment and posted about it. No tears, no drama, just a simple acknowledgement that she's learning to stand on her own feet. My parents' change has been even more dramatic. The facade of perfect family life they maintained for years has crumbled. Mom's social media presence, once filled with carefully curated family photos and inspiration quotes about unconditional love, has gone quiet. Dad stopped making excuses for their behavior and recently sent me an email, the first genuine communication we've had in months. In his email, he admitted something I never expected to hear: we failed you as parents. We got so caught up in making Sophia the star of our family that we forgot you were shining in your own way. He mentioned seeing my name in an architecture magazine. I'd recently won an award for an innovative sustainable design project, and said he finally understood what my grandfather had seen in me all along. The most satisfying development came through my career. The sustainable design project that caught my dad's attention has opened incredible doors. 3 major firms have approached me with job offers, and my current firm responded with a promotion and a substantial raise. The partners even mentioned fast-tracking me for a junior partner position, something that usually takes at least another 5 years. The money from the settlement finally arrived, and I've invested it exactly as my grandfather would have wanted. I'm starting my master's degree in sustainable architecture next fall, and I've set aside some funds to establish a small scholarship for students facing financial hardship. It feels right to turn this painful experience into something that might help others. Sophia and I had our first real conversation last week. She came to my house after her shift at the coffee shop, still in her uniform, looking exhausted but somehow more genuine than I'd ever seen her. "I get it now," she said, "why you fought so hard. It wasn't about the money. It was about being seen. We're not best friends, and maybe we never will be, but there's a new understanding between us. The hardest part has been watching my parents face the community's judgment. Their social circle has shrunk considerably since the truth came out. Several family friends have reached out to me privately, sharing similar stories of witnessing their favoritism over the years but never speaking up. My Aunt Margaret has become an unexpected ally, regularly checking in on me and even helping me plan my graduate school applications. Looking back, this journey has been about more than just recovering stolen money. It's been about breaking free from toxic family patterns and finding my own worth. The house my grandparents left me has become my sanctuary, filled with architectural drawings and plans for the future. I've transformed their old study into my design studio, with my drafting table positioned exactly where Grandpa used to sit and encourage my dreams. Sometimes, when I'm working late into the night on my designs, I feel their presence and know they'd be proud of the woman I've become. The most profound change has been in how I view myself. I'm no longer the family scapegoat or the invisible daughter. I'm a successful architect, a future graduate student, and someone who had the courage to stand up for what's right. Just last week, I presented a major sustainable housing project to the city council, and watching those seasoned architects and developers lean forward in their seats, genuinely engaged with my ideas, that was a feeling no amount of family approval could match. The family dynamic that once suffocated me no longer has any power over me. As for my parents, they're facing their own journey of redemption. Mom has started therapy, something she always dismissed as unnecessary before. Her therapist has helped her recognize patterns from her own childhood that led to her favoritism. Dad's working on rebuilding relationships with family members who distanced themselves due to his enabling behavior. During our last family gathering, he actually stood up to his sister when she tried to make excuses for their past behavior. They have a long way to go, but at least they're finally acknowledging their mistakes. Sophia's transformation continues to surprise me. She's been promoted to shift supervisor at the coffee shop and is taking classes at community college. Her social media now shows a very different person, someone who's learning the value of hard work and genuine accomplishment. She's even started a small study group for other working students, helping them balance jobs and education. Last week, she actually thanked me. "You taught me that real respect isn't about being given everything," she said, "it's about earning your own way." The entitled teenager who once threw tantrums over Instagram likes has grown into someone who understands the value of genuine achievement. To the Reddit community, your support throughout this journey has been invaluable. Every comment, message, and shared story helped me stay strong when I doubted myself. The responses to my original post opened my eyes to how many others have faced similar struggles with family financial abuse. You showed me that standing up for yourself doesn't make you selfish or ungrateful, it makes you strong. Special thanks to everyone who shared their own stories of family financial abuse and toxic dynamics. Your courage inspired mine. When my grandfather started that college fund, he wanted to invest in my future. In the end, he gave me something far more valuable than money. He showed me that I was worth fighting for. He taught me that dreams aren't just idle wishes, but goals worth pursuing with everything you have. That lesson has been worth every difficult moment of this journey. For anyone out there facing similar family dynamics, remember, you deserve to be seen, to be valued, and to have your dreams taken seriously. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, even if they're family. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought against the people who should have been your biggest supporters. But those battles shape who you become. The legal victory was just the beginning. I've started mentoring other young architects at my firm, particularly those struggling with financial or family pressures. It feels right to pass on the kind of support my grandfather gave me. Next month, I'm even speaking at a professional conference about sustainable urban development, something I never would have had the confidence to do before all this. As I prepare to start my master's program, I keep my grandfather's words close to my heart. One day, I'll see your buildings on postcards. I may have lost the money once, but I've gained something far more valuable, the strength to build my own future, on my own terms. Every blueprint I draw, every design I create, carries a piece of his belief in me. Thank you, Reddit, for being part of my journey to reclaiming what was rightfully mine, not just the money, but my self-worth. Your support has helped turn a story of family betrayal into one of personal triumph. I hope my experience can help others find their own strength to stand up for themselves and their dreams.